So for chapter 15, we looked at different mistakes and the options that parties have when there's a mistake in a contract. Um, so for the first part, um, so what happens when there is a mistake in a contract or a mistake is found? What options do parties have? Um, So the first thing is there's two different types of mistakes. There's mistake of fact and a mistake of value. Um, so basically, a mistake of fact is when there's a material fact within the contract and the two parties have different understandings of what's going on. This is like the only thing that can make a contract voidable. So that's the big thing. That's an option that they have when they have different understandings um, of the different terms within the contract. Now, a mistake of value, on the other hand, is basically you're mistaken. You have mistaken the value of the product or the quality of the object, whatever it is, in the contract. So, say for example, um, easy one is a car. Um, you buy a car or like a hockey card or something like that, sports card, and you don't do your research and you sell it for 20 bucks and then they figure it out that it's worth a lot more. It's worth 10 grand. That contract has already been done. It can't be voidable. You've made that mistake. That's basically, you know, you should understand the risks of what's happening within that contract. So when it comes to that, you don't have really any options. Um, Now there are two different types of mistakes of fact. There's the unilateral mistake of fact, is when one party to the contract should have known that there was a mistake of fact within there, or a mistake of fact was made. This can be through something like a mathematical mistake or negligence or something like that. There are bilateral mistakes, bilateral mistake of facts. This is when both parties, um, there's a mistake by both parties. Now, depending on this, um, you can go a certain direction. You can rescind the contract, but it does not compel you to actually do that. Either party can rescind the contract when both parties are mistaken about the same fact, same terms or whatever within that contract. So if you're both wrong about one thing, the exact same thing, then you can get out of that contract. So that's sort of how it works. Depending on the type of mistake of fact within the contract, whether it's unilateral, bilateral, it can be, you have different options. So unilateral, one party should have known. It can be enforceable unless one party should have known that the mistake was made, or mistake was due to substantial mathematical error or negligence, something like that. Bilateral, contract can be rescinded by either party. So for part two, I guess, when it's not a mistake but it's intentional, this turns into fraud and into fraudulent misrepresentation, which I will kind of talk about before. But a mistake is something that you don't realize that is in there, whether you didn't know or you should have known. But when it's intentional or you're trying to hide something or lie about a fact, then it becomes fraud, which is illegal when it comes to contracts. So for part two, please explain in detail the following concepts in your narrative. So mistake of fact, I kind of already went over that. Basically, when whether it's unilateral or bilateral, one party or two parties, should have known they were like have different understandings of terms within the contract or a fact related to that. That can make it voidable. Unilateral, there's one party that makes a mistake. Bilateral, both parties make the mistake. Kind of already went over that. Mistake of value, again, I sort of went over that already too, but if you mistaken the actual value of the object or a fact within that contract, you assume that risk, that you've done your fair research, and you cannot take it back. So that's the big thing for that. You want to make sure you do your full research, because you can't take it back if you don't realize that if you sold an item for something less than what it was actually worth. Fraudulent misrepresentation is when basically someone is getting fooled. There's intent to deceive the other person or the other party. If you lie about a fact within whether you're selling like a car, you lie about the model or the make, or whether it's completely normal or original or whatever. The other party didn't know. They genuinely did not consent to the terms that you were giving them. So that's when it becomes fraudulent misrepresentation. Like I said, there must be an intent to deceive, and an actual misrepresentation of a material fact must occur. Basically, with this, the innocent party must justifiably rely on the misrepresentation to collect damages. A party must have been harmed as a result of the misrepresentation. So you can rescind a contract, but if you want to seek damages, there must be something that has been harmed. I know in class we talked about, brakes on a car. If you lie and say, the brakes are fine, and they're actually not, and you end up getting in a car accident, you can seek damages because you were told that car had proper brakes on it. So that'd be something like that, along the lines of that. So for the next part, unilateral or bilateral mistakes. I already went over that like twice. Unilateral, one term or one party makes a mistake. Bilateral, both parties make a mistake. I already went in detail about that. Innocent and fraudulent misrepresentation. Wow, I really went off track. I already talked about that too. And then adhesion contracts. Oh, but innocent misrepresentation. Basically, so if someone sold you a product, or so if someone sold you a car and they told you that it was all original, and then you go to sell it. So they told you it was all original, and it actually wasn't. You bought it, and then you went to sell it, and you claimed that it was all original. Then that's innocent misrepresentation. There was no intent to deceive. You were just going off of what they said or what the previous owner said. But it's still, something that can't happen within a contract, whether you knew it or not. there are, you can do misrepresentation by silence, as if, you don't have to say everything on a contract, but there is some things that you do need to know. But intent to deceive is the big thing. Innocent misrepresentation: a person makes statements he believes to be true, but actually misrepresents facts. So like what I said before, if you were sold something, or if you were told by like an expert in that field that something, and then they ended up not giving you the full truth or whatever, and then you go and claim that, that's innocent misrepresentation. Next we have, get off my screen. There we go. Next we have adhesion contracts, which is the last part. This is when contracts that are written exclusively by one party and presented to the other party on like a take it or leave it basis. So this can basically with this, there's no like opportunity to negotiate. It's a take it or leave it type deal, but to avoid enforcement of the contract, you must show that the clause is unconscionable, meaning that it's completely one-sided, or one party, the dominating party, is going to benefit much more than the other party. That's a big thing with that. So that's everything that we talked about in chapter 15. I'm at 12 minutes already. Holy jeez. Yeah, so that's everything.